Good evening. From Tianjin, China, a city now standing at the crossroads of global diplomacy, an important bilateral meeting has just concluded on the sidelines of the Shanghai Cooperation Organisation summit. Russian President Vladimir Putin sat down with his Turkish counterpart, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, for what both sides framed as a critical discussion amid deepening global tensions and the ongoing war in Ukraine. The backdrop for this encounter was not accidental. Tianjin, one of China's most vibrant port cities, has become the stage for high-stakes diplomacy this week, hosting leaders from across Eurasia. Yet it was the Putin-Erdogan meeting that drew particular attention, given Turkey's unique position as both a NATO member and a country that has repeatedly acted as a mediator between Russia, Ukraine and the West. The images released by the Russian pool show Putin and Erdogan greeting each other with a firm handshake, walking side by side into the meeting room. Cameras captured them, taking their seats across the table, flanked by their delegations. The body language was cordial but businesslike, neither celebratory nor confrontational, but clearly signalling the weight of the agenda. Such visuals matter when leaders like Putin and Erdogan, both accustomed to projecting authority, meet in a carefully choreographed setting. The symbolism goes beyond the words spoken. For Turkey, the optics reaffirm its status as a bridge between East and West. For Russia, the meeting underscores its ability to attract Western-aligned powers into dialogue, despite sanctions and isolation attempts. It was Putin who opened the conversation. Speaking in front of the cameras, he made a point to acknowledge Turkey's role in navigating one of the most complex geopolitical crises of our time. Vladimir Putin said, "Turkey continues to play an important role in trying to mediate around the Ukraine conflict. We highly appreciate Ankara's consistent position and its attempts to find solutions acceptable to all sides." That statement, simple as it may sound, carried layers of meaning. At a time when Moscow has been accused of rejecting negotiations, Putin sought to portray himself as willing to engage, provided that the interlocutor is one he trusts. By praising Turkey, he reinforced Ankara's credibility as a mediator and sent a signal to Western capitals. Dialogue is possible, but only through channels Russia respects. President Erdogan responded in kind, stressing the importance of continued dialogue. Recep Tayyip Erdogan said, "It is important that Russia and Turkey keep open lines of communication, not only for our bilateral relations, but also for broader regional stability." Erdogan has long positioned himself as a deal maker. From facilitating the Black Sea grain export agreement to hosting prisoner exchanges, Turkey has leveraged its geographic position and diplomatic flexibility. This meeting provided another stage for him to highlight Turkey's indispensability. At the heart of the discussion was, of course, the war in Ukraine. While no breakthrough was announced, the framing of the conversation revealed how both leaders want the world to perceive their roles. Putin's emphasis on Turkey's mediation reflects Moscow's strategy of bypassing Western-dominated platforms like the G7 or NATO. By working with Turkey, a NATO member, but one often at odds with Washington and Brussels, Russia hopes to erode the notion that it is globally isolated. Erdogan, for his part, reinforced Turkey's credibility as an honest broker. In international diplomacy, perception is half the battle. By sitting with Putin in Tianjin, he demonstrated Turkey's ability to maintain channels with Moscow, even as Ankara remains formally committed to NATO obligations. The timing of this meeting is also crucial. The SCO summit in Tianjin has already been described by analysts as a showcase of a shifting world order where non-Western powers are asserting themselves. Against this backdrop, the Putin-Erdogan dialogue was not just about bilateral relations, it was about signalling alternatives to Western-centric diplomacy. China, as host, benefited indirectly from this display. By providing the venue, Beijing reaffirmed its position as a convener of global power politics. The very fact that Putin and Erdogan met here, rather than in Moscow, Ankara or Geneva, underscored China's rising role as a stage for high-stakes negotiations. To understand the weight of this meeting, one must consider the long, often turbulent history between Russia and Turkey. Once bitter rivals in centuries past, the two countries have, in recent years, forged a relationship built on both cooperation and rivalry. On one hand, they are economic partners. Turkey has become a key hub for Russian energy exports, particularly since European sanctions began squeezing Moscow's traditional markets. Bilateral trade has flourished, with Turkey serving as both a lifeline and a loophole for Russia's sanctioned economy. On the other hand, their geopolitical interests often collide. In Syria, Moscow backs Bashar al-Assad, while Ankara supports factions opposed to him. In the South Caucasus, Russia has traditionally supported Armenia, while Turkey backs Azerbaijan. These contradictions make their dialogue even more fascinating. Despite being on opposite sides of multiple conflicts, Putin and Erdogan find common ground where it suits them. Erdogan's decision to meet Putin at this moment also reflects domestic calculations. At home, the Turkish leader faces mounting economic challenges. Inflation remains high, foreign investment shaky, and public discontent visible. By engaging with Putin, Erdogan signals to his domestic audience that Turkey remains a global power player capable of balancing relations with both East and West. Moreover, Erdogan leverages these meetings to extract concessions from his Western allies. By demonstrating his willingness to deepen ties with Russia, he increases Ankara's bargaining power within NATO and the European Union. The message is clear: Turkey will not be taken for granted. The Shanghai Cooperation Organisation, founded in 2001, has grown into one of the world's largest regional blocs, spanning Eurasia and South Asia. While not a military alliance like NATO, it serves as a platform where non-Western powers coordinate on security, economic and political issues. For Russia, the SCO is an opportunity to demonstrate that it is far from isolated. For Turkey, which is not a full member but often participates as a partner, it is a chance to showcase its strategic flexibility. By attending and holding high-profile meetings here, both Putin and Erdogan reinforce the SCO's importance as an alternative diplomatic forum. What makes such encounters powerful is often not the communiques, but the symbolism. Cameras lingered on Putin and Erdogan, seated across from each other, surrounded by aides. The images themselves serve as a statement. Dialogue continues, channels remain open, and neither leader is retreating from the international stage. In today's interconnected world, where images travel faster than policy documents, this symbolism matters as much as the substance. For audiences in Moscow, Ankara and beyond, the handshake and the conversation projected a message of resilience, relevance and defiance. While immediate reactions from Western capitals were muted, the meeting will undoubtedly be scrutinized. For Washington and Brussels, Erdogan's continued engagement with Putin remains a source of unease. NATO allies worry that Turkey's balancing act may dilute the alliance's cohesion. For Kyiv, the praise for Turkey's mediation may offer some hope, though skepticism remains high. Ukrainian officials have long insisted that negotiations must begin with the restoration of territorial integrity. Unless Russia shifts its stance, mediation efforts, however well-intentioned, may struggle to gain traction. The Putin-Erdogan meeting in Tianjin did not produce a groundbreaking agreement, nor was one expected. Its significance lies elsewhere, in the projection of influence, the preservation of dialogue, and the subtle signalling to multiple audiences. Putin reinforced that Russia still has partners willing to engage with him on the global stage. Erdogan reaffirmed Turkey's indispensability as a bridge between East and West. And China, by hosting, reminded the world of its role as a central platform in this evolving multipolar order. In international politics, not every meeting is about immediate outcomes. Some are about optics, positioning, and long-term narratives. This encounter was precisely that. As the SCO summit continues in Tianjin, the Putin-Erdogan meeting will be remembered less for specific announcements and more for what it symbolized. It was a reminder that global diplomacy is rarely straightforward, that alliances are fluid, and that individual leaders can redefine the course of international relations simply by showing up, shaking hands, and choosing their words carefully. And as Vladimir Putin emphasized, Turkey continues to play an important role in trying to mediate around the Ukraine conflict. We highly appreciate Ankara's consistent position and its attempts to find solutions acceptable to all sides. And as Recep Tayyip Erdogan replied, it is important that Russia and Turkey keep open lines of communication, not only for our bilateral relations, but also for broader regional stability. These words delivered in Tianjin may not end the war or resolve the crises, but they do keep the door open to diplomacy. And in a world as fractured as ours, that in itself is no small achievement.
Уважаемые, и очень высоко ценю наши личные контакты, которые неизменно проходят в конструктивном, взаимоуважительном ключе. Реализация флагманского проекта сооружения первой турецкой АЭС Акую. Идет подготовка.
Zat halinizi Türkiye'de misafir etme arzumuzu biliyorsunuz.